will know just how much commitment, work and competence Zia has brought to the job of chairman. We would not have done on May the 1st what we did without him. My thanks go to him. Then it's a Conservative vote that would be a wasted vote. It's a Conservative vote that actually would help keep Labour in power. And that is the absolutely fundamental shift of public perception as an argument. Now, of course, we have a lot to do now that we're in office, and there is a heavy burden of responsibility on the shoulders of many in this room. And our DOGE unit has now been set up. You'll be hearing much more about that.
Nigel Farage has just detonated a political bombshell that is already reverberating through the halls of Westminster in a move that stunned both supporters and critics alike. Farage stood up in Parliament and demanded an immediate general election, delivering his statement with fiery conviction.
Nigel Farage has got 5. Why is Keir Starmer dedicating all this time to reform? Is this a smart move or a silly one?
Well, I mean, firstly, it's a legitimate critique. Farage was throwing out spending commitments.
But if I was Nigel Farage, I would be so chuffed today, because one of the points that was raised was that is Nigel Farage living rent-free in Keir Starmer's head? Labour have got 400, I think it's 400.
Look at the polling that More in Common did the 2 days after the local elections, and a significant proportion of people who voted for reform in the local elections explicitly said they were trying to send a message to the government.
Eyes blazing and voice rising above the stunned silence of the chamber. For many, it was the moment they feared, or perhaps the moment they'd been waiting for. With one sentence, Farage reignited the powder keg of British politics and put every MP on notice. The people must decide, and they must decide now. The confrontation erupted during a tense parliamentary session focused on economic strategy and public trust. But Farage had other plans. Rising from his seat, he ignored the scheduled agenda and launched into a blistering attack on the government's handling of virtually every major issue, from cost of living to immigration.
I have absolutely no idea how many members the Conservative Party has, or indeed how many members the Labour Party has. But we are on our way. Our membership from June the 3rd last year has gone from 28,000 to over 235,000. The last figure we had was many months ago, and they were losing a member every 10 minutes. I'm not saying we are already the biggest political party by membership, but we must be very, very close indeed.
He accused the Prime Minister of clinging to power while the country falls apart, and branded the current administration a zombie government, paralysed, panicked, and completely out of touch. Gasps were heard across the chamber as Farage escalated, pointing directly at the frontbench and demanding that the Prime Minister find the courage to step aside and return power to the people. What followed was chaos. Ministers looked rattled, opposition MPs cheered, aides scrambled to draft emergency talking points. The Speaker attempted to regain control, but Farage kept pushing, repeating over and over that the government had no mandate left and was hiding from the electorate. He invoked the will of the people, referencing broken promises, declining trust, and spiralling crises. If this government truly believes it has the support of the British people, then it should have no fear. He declared, call a general election, let the people speak, or admit once and for all that you're afraid of what they'll say.
They did sink to 4th in the opinion polls with YouGov last year. It is over, it is done. They've had a good 200 years, it is now finished. They have no chance of winning the next general election, none whatsoever. And I don't really wish to spend much more time talking about them.
The demand sent shockwaves through every corner of Westminster. Political strategists raced to assess the fallout. Within minutes, news networks cut to live coverage. Social media exploded with clips of the moment, already being reshared by activists, pundits, and disillusioned voters across the spectrum.
Labour did even worse. We completely wiped them out in County Durham. In many other parts of the East Midlands, we see an obscure backbench Labour MP get up and ask the Prime Minister a question. Is it true that the honourable member from Clacton is a complete rotter?
The hashtag number sign, Call the Election, was trending nationally within the hour, with users praising Farage's boldness and slamming the government's silence. Inside government circles, panic began to set in. One senior official, speaking off the record, admitted that the intervention had caught them off guard. We didn't expect this level of public theatrics. they said. "It's forced our hand faster than we'd like." Privately, some ministers were reportedly furious, not just at Farage, but at their own leadership for giving him the space to seize the spotlight. Others, however, quietly acknowledged that the message was resonating, especially in regions hit hardest by economic uncertainty and disillusionment with establishment parties. Farage's allies, meanwhile, were already seizing the moment. Outside Parliament, supporters rallied, waving placards and chanting for a fresh vote. Campaign infrastructure that had been dormant for months suddenly sprang back to life. Organisers began laying the groundwork for rallies, town halls, and online campaigns demanding a new mandate from the public. Farage himself, flushed with momentum, gave a spontaneous press statement on the Parliament steps, telling reporters that Britain is ready for change and I'm ready to deliver it. He went on to accuse both major parties of treating voters like a nuisance rather than the sovereign voice of democracy. They sit behind those doors, making deals with each other, dodging accountability, while the country struggles, he said. Well, today I told them that era is over. No more hiding, no more excuses. Either face the people or face the collapse of your credibility. The response from the Prime Minister's office was carefully worded but clearly defensive. In a brief statement, a spokesperson said that now was not the time for reckless theatrics and that the government remained focused on stability and economic recovery. But that didn't stop speculation from intensifying. Political insiders began whispering about the possibility of an early vote being forced, not by legal requirement, but by raw public pressure and political fear. Some backbench MPs reportedly voiced concern in private meetings, warning that refusing to acknowledge the growing unrest could lead to disastrous electoral consequences down the line. Farage's timing was deliberate, with public satisfaction at a record low, trust in political institutions crumbling, and the cost of living crisis tightening its grip. He saw a clear opening. By stepping into the vacuum with an electrifying call for national accountability, he instantly changed the tone of British politics. Analysts are already calling the move one of the most calculated and effective acts of political showmanship in years. What makes it even more potent is that Farage isn't currently part of the government. That outsider status gives him the power to say what many inside Parliament won't. It also allows him to connect with voters who feel alienated from both Labour and the Conservatives. In this moment, Farage didn't just challenge the government, he positioned himself as the voice of the unheard majority. The question now is what happens next. Will this be remembered as a bold gesture that sparked real change, or just another dramatic moment in the theatre of politics? That depends on how the public reacts in the coming days. If pressure continues to mount, the Prime Minister may be forced into a decision sooner than expected. If not, Farage will still have reshaped the national conversation and perhaps redrawn the battle lines heading into the next election, whether it's called tomorrow or a year from now. Regardless of the outcome, one thing is certain. Nigel Farage has once again proven that he understands the pulse of political discontent better than most. With one statement, he silenced the room, shook the establishment, and reignited the demand for accountability at the highest level. Westminster may not want an election, but after today, they may not have a choice.